Number 10. The Builders. The Builders are a recent addition of the Marvel Rogues Gallery, only recently approaching their 10th year of existence in the comics, which makes them sound old, but really relative to comic book history they're still pretty new, because Marvel Comics I think has been going on for like 80 years. Whoa! The Builders are a race of beings who claim to have created most of the known worlds in the universe, seeding worlds and influencing the development of civilizations for eons. They are also said to be a perfect race of beings, and when the multiverse appears to be dying as a result of incursions, they take it upon themselves to clean up the mess by wiping out complete worlds and empires, which puts them at odds with the heroes of Earth during the Infinity crossover event.
Number 9. The Black Winter. Ready to be slightly confused? Good. So the Marvel multiverse rebirths itself whenever it gets destroyed. Right now the multiverse is currently in its 8th version. Everything prior to the most recent Secret Wars and the incursions and the battle world and all that took place in the 7th version. Before that came to be, there was, get this, the 6th version. And when that version was destroyed, only one being survived. That would be the character who became Galactus. Well, now we know how the 6th cosmos was destroyed, and ooh, it's scary. The 6th cosmos was actually consumed by an entity called the Black Winter, essentially a living storm of destruction and entropy on a multiversal scale, like Galactus but for universes. Kind of. When the Black Winter ate the 6th cosmos, it allowed Galen, Galactus' real name, to live on into the 7th cosmos, and serve as its herald. Now, funnily enough, Galactus mostly ignored his heralding duties until the day the Black Winter showed up in the 7th cosmos in 2019. Galactus turned to Thor for help, but the two were unable to cooperate, and Thor wound up slaying Galactus, something the Black Winter prophesied would actually happen. Then Thor turned the corpse of Galactus into a power cosmic explosion and blew up the Black Winter. But before it went away, it showed Thor how he will perish at the hands of Thanos wielding an Infinity Stone encrusted Mjolnir. So now we have that to look forward to.
Number 8. Mr. Misery. Mr. Misery is a Doctor Strange villain that was actually created by Doctor Strange himself. Some people create their own villains. Oof. Some people are their own villains. Ah. Mr. Misery was a creature that embodied all the pain and misery that Strange had suffered from using magic during his time as Sorcerer Supreme. The beast was also commonly referred to as the Thing in the Cellar. At least, well, that's what it was originally referred to as. We'll get to that in a second. The Thing in the Cellar was released when all magic was threatened during the attack of the technological army known as Empirical. Mr. Misery is actually the name the creature took for itself after Doctor Strange was forced to reckon with it following its accidental release. Strange freed the creature by depositing his suffering and pain instead into the people that he had saved, dividing it up so that each only carried a small piece of it within them. These people were also willing to do so as they had been saved by Strange in the past. So they were like, yo, Strange is my guy, I'll take a little bit of pain for you, no problem. Even after being freed, Mr. Misery continued to crave the pain and suffering of others, which is, you know, why he took the name Mr. Misery and became a villain. Or they. It. It's kind of like a blob.
Number 7. Horticulture. Ever since I learned about this group, I will take any opportunity to talk about them. Horticulture is a group of 4 older women between the ages of 64 to 81 who are all expert botanists. They are Augusta Brones, Lily Lamus, Edith Scutch, and Opal Vedivere. And their goal is simple. Sort of. Essentially, they want to bring Earth back to a more pristine time. A time when it had about 7 billion less people on it. Yes, these ladies want to basically exterminate most of the Earth's human population and bring plants back to the forefront, and specifically flowers, which is kind of a lovely idea, sort of. This goal brings them into conflict with the X-Men in 2019's X-Men number 3, because the nation of Krakoa, that the mutants call home, have been mass producing these flowers with different bio and tech purposes, and these ladies would like to use them for their villainous goals. Beyond biological modifications believed to have been made to themselves, the women of horticulture are experts at manipulating the environment to suit their extinction agenda. And they're also computer programmers, selling software to the anti-mutant group Orcus to monitor Krakoan gateways. So now you know.
Number 6. Cordyceps Jones. Although he might not be as new as some of the other villains mentioned here, Cordyceps Jones is still a relatively new villain, if you've been out of comics for the last few years at least. He first appeared back in 2017 in Rocket issue number 4 and was created by Al Ewing and Adam Gorham. Cordyceps Jones is known for having a salacious reputation across the cosmos. He's a 30,000-year-old fungal parasite who, due to his longevity, has made an intergalactic fortune and is known for owning many successful casinos across the cosmos. Recently, he appeared in the X-Men series, where he seems to be threatening the existence of Earth, setting up a bet for fun to see who can be the first to wipe it out. Because, you know, that's what you do when you're a rich fungal parasite and you've been around for too long. That's what happens. You're like, gotta make some bets.
Number 5. The linear verse. The linear verse is an alternate reality where the people age so slowly that it's almost safe to say they don't age at all. Batman began his career in 1939, with his youth lasting for decades instead of the normal aging of a human. In a way, this kind of represents how comic book characters seemingly never age and grow old, except in certain stories. By the late 20th century, the world had most of its superheroes. After this point though, things get a little whack. See, Earth became a dystopia ruled by the wealthy, which, I don't know, it seems a bit too real for me. And a great disaster was foreseen that actually came to pass. And the world became very similar to the one in the Earth AD story. Anthropomorphized animals had become the rulers of the planet, with humans devolving, save for Kamandi and a few others. Then, in the 25th century, humanity seemingly built a high-tech society, which saw the rise of Michael Carter, who is Booster Gold. In the 31st century, Earth became the base of the Legion of Superheroes, who were an interplanetary superhero team. This world is just a wild ride. Oh, and it first appeared in Generations Forge #1 in April of 2021. Number 4. The Metalverse. Okay, I know we're going to talk about the Dark Multiverse, but we haven't talked about, and we need to talk about, the Metalverse. So basically, after Perpetua defeated the Justice League, she gave Prime Earth to the Batman Who Laughs. He and his Dark Knights defeated all the heroes and then reshaped the Earth into his vision. Look at this super cool map! He turned Gotham City into a whole continent super city that is guarded by Joker dragons. He made his home Castle Bat, which is another version of Batman who became a sentient Gotham. There is a hell on Earth called the Hellscape, ruled by Wonder Woman. Arkham Wasteland, ruled over by Harley Quinn. A Superman-powered new Apocalypse prison where all the remaining heroes are held. Megapocalypse with a Rainbow Valley where all the lantern rings lay because no one is worthy that exists anymore. This version of Earth Prime isn't exactly an alternate universe, but it definitely sounds like it should be. Hey nerds! Just wanted to say thanks for watching. It means a lot to us. If y'all don't mind smacking that like button, it would help us out. And it helps YouTube know we don't suck. Okay, on to the top 3. Number 3. Green Lantern Legacy. Green Lantern Legacy is a one-shot comic from 2020, in which we are given an alternate Earth where the Green Lanterns of Earth were John Stewart, who we already know, and a Vietnamese woman named Kim Tran. Now, Kim Tran, like most of the Green Lanterns, was an awesome hero who never let evil escape her sight, in brightest day or blackest night. She was a pillar for her community too, helping people from all walks of life. And she even helped other Vietnamese immigrants feel at home in this new city. The comic, though, really follows Tai Pham, who is Kim Tran's grandson, as he takes up the mantle of Green Lantern from his grandmother, becoming one of the youngest Green Lanterns at 12 years old. We see him struggle with racism, bullies, his own fears, and against the Yellow Lantern. It's a great story, and it gives some well-needed Vietnamese representation to the DC landscape. Give it a read! Number 2. Deceased. You know how Marvel has the Marvel Zombie storyline? Well, this is basically DC Zombies. That's a bit of an unfair comparison though. The two stories are very different, with the DC version ultimately being slightly more grounded and emotional. In this reality, Cyborg has been captured by Darkseid on Apocalypse, and it's revealed that the anti-life equation lives inside him. When Darkseid tries to take the equation, it is instead corrupted, causing Darkseid to explode Apocalypse. But not before Cyborg was sent to Earth. Once he arrives, he inadvertently infects the entire world with the anti-life equation, which has taken the form of a techno-organic virus. This turns millions of people and a lot of metahumans into zombies. The story follows the survivors as they try to quell the threat, and eventually leave the Earth to settle a new home. I kinda prefer this to the Marvel Zombies story. I don't know, it's a survival story instead of a funny zombie story. I like it. Sue me. Please don't sue me. Number 1. Dark Multiverse. First appearing in Dark Knight's Metal #1 in 2017, the Dark Multiverse is basically the shadow version of the regular DC universe that resides underneath the primary one. So there are negative versions of the 52 Earths of the regular multiverse, but it was also originally the World Forge, meaning it has so many more worlds. For example, there are worlds born from sentient life's hopes and fears. Honestly, each world here could take up a point on this list, but it feels like that's cheating a little. The World Forger was the master of this domain and created the great dragon, Barbados, to destroy unstable realities that couldn't join the orrery of worlds. Barbados, manipulated by Perpetua, rebelled and defeated the World Forger, creating the Dark Multiverse. A lot more happens after that, but I can't cover that in a 1-minute segment, so Dark Knight's Metal is an amazing story and it deserves your reading.
The Avengers just got their own version of Krakoa. What a way to start, huh? There is now a member of the team that is a sentient island. Their name is Impossible City. They just dropped in July of last year, so it's almost their birthday. Impossible City was created by a separate group of heroes that had trapped a bunch of monsters called the Ashen Combine inside the city. The heroes eventually just mysteriously disappeared and the monsters got out. They proved really quickly why they were trapped. They started destroying worlds and defeating heroes, all while dragging around Impossible City as their headquarters against their will. The city was modified to serve the group, but it knew that it didn't want to. It wasn't until the Avengers battled the monsters that things got interesting. Captain America and Black Panther went up to the island intending to destroy it. However, the island started speaking to them, which was probably the most normal thing to happen to them all that week. The island was convinced the Avengers weren't going to win the fight, so it offered to blow itself up as a sacrifice, but Captain America and Black Panther were like, absolutely not, you're a good guy now, so don't do that. The Avengers defeated the Ashen Combine because they are the Avengers, and then they destroyed the things on the island that were controlling it, so now Impossible City is free. Impossible City asked the Avengers to join the team, and who are they to say no? If mutants can have a sentient island, so can the Avengers. Welcome to the team, Impossible City, she says like she's on it. One can dream though. Psylocke has been around since the 80s, but she just joined the Avengers after the events at that one Hellfire Gala and everything that came after that one gala. Captain America was putting together the new Avengers Unity Squad and recruited Psylocke to the team. She joined because they had common goals. She probably wouldn't have done it unless she needed to. It wasn't until she got through a few battles on the team that she decided to stick around. After the Avengers came out victorious against Orcus and the Mutant Liberation Front, she must have decided to stick around considering she is still an active member. Psylocke is known for her telepathic abilities and her martial arts skills. She's been part of the X-Men for years. It's the Avengers that are just now cluing in on her talent. Similar to Psylocke is Penance, or Monet. She started out as an X-Men, but after the disastrous events of that one gala, she joined Captain America's Avengers Unity Division. Penance is actually the second identity of Monet that was created by her evil brother. She told him she wouldn't go around the universe terrorizing people with him, so he turned her into Penance, a mute creature with sharp, hard red skin. Eventually, she was freed from this body thanks to other family members. She did have a villain era, but ultimately, when mutants were in danger, she stepped up to the plate, joined the good side, the Avengers Unity Division, and saved her community. Johnny Watts went from vigilante on the West Coast to West Coast Avenger. Johnny met Kate Bishop while she was investigating the disappearance of his sister's girlfriend. Naturally, he decided to help Kate out, and they saved his sister's girlfriend. Seems like he had fun working with Kate because they continued working together and investigating crimes. At this point, all Kate knows is that Johnny is just a human that's really good at fighting. However, during this really big battle, Johnny shields her from some falling concrete, so surprise, he actually has superpowers. His power is omnimorph duplication, and that is turning your body into any substance you touch. Watts wears vibranium jewelry, so he always has access to a strong substance to transform into, and I love it when heroes are smart. It seems like a bare minimum requirement, but you would be surprised. When Kate was reforming the West Coast Avengers, Watts was all for it, and at this point, he took on his hero name. You are never going to guess what Johnny Watts' hero name is. Fuse. The commitment to the bit is outstanding. Sister and brother duo Goodness and Lucky joined the West Coast Avengers back in 2016, but it wasn't an easy road to get there. Goodness and Lucky are humans with the power to turn into an animal. Goodness into a blue wolf and Lucky into a pink two-tailed fox. One night, while they were minding their business, a group of supervillains attacked their neighborhood, leading to Lucky ending up in the hospital. It eventually came out that the attack was orchestrated by a councilman, so a high-risk area of the city would be eliminated. Obviously, Goodness is really upset about her current circumstances and ends up transforming into her wolf form in the police station. The Great Lakes Avengers were able to help out and get her to relax, and she ultimately decided to use her odd power for good. She joined the GLA as Good Boy, helping the team defeat the Bodge Squad. As of right now, Lucky has not joined the team. Gwenpool quickly charmed people when she appeared on a variant cover, so much so that she manifested into an actual Marvel character. Despite technically first appearing in 2015, she didn't join an Avengers team until 2018, the same team Fuse would have joined. When Kate was pulling together that team, Gwenpool was accidentally recruited after appearing in the room right after Kate rejected a bunch of unqualified candidates. Gwenpool might be chaotic, but she is good at what she does. She, like Deadpool, is a fourth wall breaker because she was from a universe where Marvel is just comics and movies, so she understands how heroes' stories work and the physical page structure of them. She interacts with text boxes, manipulates stories based on writing conventions one would typically see in a super story. Her personality and unique character backstory and her overall aesthetic have cemented her as a fan favorite character. When her edition of the West Coast Avengers disbanded, she was aware that it was because the comic was cancelled, and that led to some major and strange developments in the Marvel Universe. She was worried she would be cancelled or erased and wanted to ensure she would always have a place in the Marvel Universe, and one of her many attempts at doing that was trying to unmask Spider-Man, among many other things. Brandy Selby was here for a good time, not a long time, and I am speaking so literally. She was born with the Star brand. However, every time she used the power that came with it, she would quickly age. Years of her life would biologically fly by in just a couple of hours or even minutes. Brandy has had quite the life. The Avengers assisted with her birth. Then she ended up in an alternate reality being raised by Groot and Rocket Raccoon. Good luck, Brandy, with that pairing. Unfortunately, Rocket of that universe got into a fight with Dr. Spectrum and lost more than just the fight. As revenge, Brandy went to find Spectrum and take him out. There was also all this drama happening on Earth. Coulson warped reality into a world without the Avengers, and Starbrand helped fix that. Eventually, she ended up back on Earth, fought the multiverse masters of evil. She aged into a young adult from that brawl. As the Avengers were traveling across time, Starbrand eventually used her powers to the point of becoming an old woman, and she was of course benched. She ended up saving the day when she and Firehair sacrificed themselves in an effort to undo the damage to all the Earths by the Masters. She literally was around for a good time, but not a long time, and her sacrifice will not be forgotten. But I mentioned Firehair briefly for a second there, and she's got quite the life story. I have to yap about it. She debuted in 2017, but in 616 timeline, she is literally a million years old, maybe more. And here's just a short list of some of what she has done in her life. She bonded with the Phoenix Force, she was raised by wolves, founded the prehistoric Avengers, fell in love with Odin, fought a Celestial, sacrificed herself for the fate of the universe, and is technically one of Thor's moms. Truly, her memoir would be the most jam-packed book to ever hit the shelves in a New York Times bestseller. While she is not part of the modern Avengers, she is part of the prehistoric Avengers and met up with the modern Avengers, and that's when she sacrificed herself alongside Brandy. She was one of the first hosts for the Phoenix Force. You might also see her referred to as Lady Phoenix. The reason she is kind of Thor's mom is she assisted with his birth. Mother Earth gave birth to him, but then he passed due to Lawfrey, so Firehair resurrected him and put some of the Phoenix power in him, making her his second mother. Quite the life story. Weapon H is another new kid on the block, debuting in 2017, joining an Avengers team in 2019. He's been part of the War Avengers and the Savage Avengers, and when I tell you his life story, you will understand why. First things things first, he made this list because I read that he was a hybrid of Wolverine and Hulk and verbally said, "Oh my god, that's so cool," so he had to be here. Clayton Cortez, before he became this hybrid Hulkverine, was just a kid who dealt with some bad cards. He was just a kid who was dealt some bad cards in life. He didn't have a nice family, and when he grew up and joined the military, he was assigned to a mission that involved harming innocents, so he sabotaged it. That got him sold to the Weapon X Batch H division that was working on creating Hulk, Wolverine, Cyborgs with a taste for endangering mutants. Not his day, week, month, or even his year. He became Weapon H. He eventually escaped that facility, and his main mission was making sure all data of his family and friends that he likes are off the radar of anyone who would want to harm them. He has met both Wolverine and Hulk and fought with and against both Wolverine and Hulk. He fought them either out of necessity or he was under mind control. He was recruited by Captain America to join Captain America's War Avengers, and they had a great time. Weapon H has all the powers that Wolverine and Hulk has. He wins at life, and I cannot think of a cooler pairing. Finishing off with another new Avenger that I think is really cool, we have Deathlock. Deathlock is Miles Morales from Earth 807,128. Originally part of the Champions, he ended up facing Annihilus. In that fight, Miles ended up passing, but then he didn't. He ended up turning into Deathlock. From what I can gather from the comic, it's likely because Michael stole the cosmic control rod from Annihilus and broke it. It caused him to become more cyborg than man. Miles in this universe is very similar to his 616 counterpart. He's fearless and funny and fights like his life depends on it because it always does. Deathlock is part of the Savage Avengers, just like Weapon H. Even though they are from separate Earths, there's a lot of timeline messes happening, and that's how that happened. Deathlock debuted in May of 2022.
Number 10. Earth 3. The post-Flashpoint Earth 3 is similar to its pre-Flashpoint Earth, but way better. This Earth is the birthplace of evil. The mentality here isn't good versus evil, it's more like just evil. Strength is respected more than anything else, with the weak basically being annihilated. Instead of the Justice League, Earth 3 is home to the Crime Syndicate of America, whose members include Ultraman, Superwoman, Owlman, Power Ring, Johnny Quick, Sea King, The Outsider, Grid, and John Johns. Earth 3 was reintroduced in 2013 and has played a part in Darkseid War in 2015, Dark Knight's Death Metal in 2020, and in 2021 it was reborn again in the Infinite Frontier story. Like I said, when we started, the DC universe is complicated, but what's remained the same since 2013 is that some of the coolest stories come out of Earth 3. Number 9, Earth 1. Earth 1 and the number 10 pick are probably the oldest of the Earths and universes on this list. Earth 1 first appeared in 2008 in its New 52 form, but it introduced a whole spectrum of readers into the DC universe, and sales for its comics were through the roof. So I believe it deserves a spot on the list. Here, superheroes are all younger, and they all just started their superhero careers. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Teen Titans, and Green Lantern all have graphic novels that take place on this Earth, and they are all just fresher takes on the almost overdone superhero origin stories. With the characters all being younger, it was also very easy for younger readers to relate to, and gave the characters conflicts that they wouldn't have faced as their prime Earth counterparts. Number 8. Injustice Universe. The Injustice Universe of Earth 22 is the universe in which the events of the Injustice video game and its related comics take place, and it first popped up in 2013. So here in the Injustice world, Superman went a little bonkers. After the Joker tricked Supes into killing both Lois Lane and her unborn child, plus unintentionally blowing up Metropolis, Superman murdered the Joker and eventually became a tyrannical ruler of Earth. The Batman of Injustice creates an insurgency, eventually enlisting the aid of another Earth, Earth 1 of this reality. With the alternate Earth's help, he overthrew Superman's regime and rebuilt the world. And that's all just part of the first game. Number 7. The 53rd World. The 53rd World, named by the smart primates who live there, was a world unknown to the rest of the multiverse. It's set in a near future where presumably the world is inhabited by super smart apes, like Planet of the Apes style. Oh, and also, immortality was achieved in 2067, meaning that yes, all these ultra smart apes are immortal. We know that there exists alternate ape versions of Superman, Batman, the Atom, and Aquaman. The existence of this Earth was first revealed in 2018's Dark Knight's Rising: The Wild Hunt, when Detective Chimp was beginning to lose his intelligence. The ape heroes show up, recruited by Raven, Cyborg, and the Flash to help with the dark multiverse, saying they were here to help. Obviously. Detective Chimp, accompanied by the apes of the 53rd Earth, plus Flash, Cyborg, and Raven, go to help Earth Zero's Justice League fight the dark multiverse forces. That's kind of all we know about the 53rd Earth. I want more super apes! Number 6. Archive of Worlds. The Archive of Worlds isn't so much an alternate Earth, it's actually an artificial multiverse which contains pocket dimensions in the form of film reels. Now that's just kinda nuts on its own, but then take into account the fact that it was created by a mad god, Arcane, who is the god of tales, who is jealous of the new god of tales, which is the internet. It's pretty nuts. He tried to steal the new god's soul and was instead encased in a Wayne Tech satellite where he created the Archive of Worlds. First appearing in Batman/Superman Volume 2, number 16 in 2021, the pocket dimensions include a world where Superman never came to be, as well as one where Batman never came to be, a world based on hell, a western world, a world based on the life of Alana Strange, and so many other unnamed worlds. Auteur.io eventually was cured by Batman, and he instead became Observer.io, which is a lot nicer. Number 5, the Sinister Adaptoid. Okay, so the Super Adaptoid ain't no kind of new villain either, but an Adaptoid that takes on the abilities and likeness of all the members of the Sinister Six, that's certainly something new. In Amazing Spider-Man number 6 from 2022, which also happens to mark Amazing Spider-Man number 900 in legacy numbering, a second and improved version of the Living Brain emerges as the story's primary antagonist on Peter Parker's birthday. His main goal? Trying to find out who Spider-Man is. To that end, he kidnapped all of Spider-Man's most frequently deadly foes, the Sinister Six, and created a super adaptoid with them. It's like 25 feet tall, strong, fast, zappy, honor-obsessed, eight-legged, mysterious, and it likes to quote some of the Six's lines. Spider-Man ends up having to team up with the captured Six villains to fight the Adaptoid, but it's actually the villains' inability to properly work together that makes the Adaptoid malfunction and destroy itself. It's kinda funny how that works. As for the Living Brain, he ends up switching sides when Spider-Man refuses to let the Six destroy it, and saves the day before revealing it actually already knows Peter's real name. Kinda weird.
Number 4, Orchis. Orchis is the entire villainous organization that first appeared in House of X issue number 1, back when Dawn of X was just starting up and it was all fresh and new and we were like, a new mutant thing and it's so good, and now we're like, please don't ever end, but it's probably gonna end soon, so I'll just go into the closet and cry forever. Don't worry about it. Orchis is an anti-mutant organization that is pro-human, and as such is all about the advancement of AI, such as Nimrod and Sentinels, to help protect humanity against the growing mutant threat. Like there's gonna be some people in the comments who are gonna say, actually, Nimrod is technically a Sentinel, and you're right, but also, don't worry about it. Orchis sees mutant evolution as a threat to humanity's existence, but little do they know, the AI they're creating is likely to serve as an even greater threat to humanity's existence in the future, based on everything that we've seen, and every alternate universe we've ever explored where that has continued. Many have joined Orchis since we were first introduced to them, with even a few mutants betraying their own kind to join their ranks.
Number 3, Uranos. Okay, technically this guy actually appeared in What If number 24 in September of 1980, but 1, he looks completely different, 2, he wasn't doing anything until now, and 3, he's cool, so I don't really care. Uranos the Undying is Thanos' grand uncle, and one of the deadliest beings in the Marvel Universe. Uranos, like every Eternal, was created by the Celestials 1 million years ago, but he believed the Eternals best fulfilled their purpose if they exterminated both the Deviants and the humans, all life outside the universe, and imprisoned the Celestials. Luckily, his brothers Kronos and Oceanus disagreed, plunging the Eternals into civil war. Now he ultimately lost that war and was captured by his brothers and became the first Eternal Eternal to be imprisoned within the Exclusion, where he stayed for over 500,000 years because of the failsafe he imposed upon the machine. That failsafe being that if he dies, his greatest celestial designed weapons will be unleashed. Recently, mutants have been revealed to be related to deviants, making the X-Men enemies to the Eternals, and the Eternal Druid called on Uranos for help in Axe Judgment Day #1. And to show how powerful he is, in a matter of 20 minutes, Uranos eradicated Cable, Magneto, and David Haller, otherwise known as Legion, along with a bunch of other very powerful mutants. He's scary.
Number 2, Annihilation. Annihilation was at first a mysterious villain who appeared in the X-Books. Eventually, however, we learned that Annihilation was actually a demonic and possessive force which had taken over Genesis, who was forced to take up the Golden Helm of Annihilation after defeating the villain. It was basically a losing battle either way, as if Genesis lost, she would have died, but in winning, she was forced to take up the helm and then lead the demonic forces of Amenth, which had so long plagued Arakko and its people. So it's like a if you win, you lose, and if you lose, you lose. Genesis turned out as well to be the long-lost wife of Apocalypse. Apocalypse had left his wife, children, and people eons ago in an attempt to help saving Arakko from the Amenthi forces that threatened to one day overtake it. In the end, Apocalypse, with the assistance of Saturnine, helped to free Genesis from the hold of Annihilation, and the helm was turned into a staff that was less influential on its host and more easily used as a tool instead of, possessing the will of whomever possessed it. Annihilation had their first appearance in X-Men issue number 12 from 2020.
Number 1. Monolith. This likely villain is so new it was hard to even find information about her. First appearing in July of 2022, which is last month unless you're in the future, in Hulk number 9, Monolith is the very strong, big pink queen of Hulk Planet. Hulk Planet is set to be the title of the new Hulk story arc taking place after Hulk's whole Titan Hulk thing and the fight with Thor that just took place. The planet itself is situated right next to a gamma-emitting star, so if you haven't guessed yet, Hulk Planet is indeed a planet covered in Hulks. Banner, piloting the Starship Hulk, finds the Hulk planet while on a mission for isolation. Instead, he meets Monolith, who offers him a place among the other Gamma beings where Hulk can exist in peace. But of course, there seems to be more to Monolith than meets the eye, and we kind of just have to wait until we can find out more information. It is likely safe to assume that as the leader of a planet of Gamma mutates, Monolith is very strong and very powerful. Will Hulk find peace? That's not usually how it goes, but only time will tell.
Number 10. Batman vs. Bigby. You know Batman, but have you ever read or heard of the Fables series? It's one of my favorite comic series. It basically follows classic fairy tale characters living in modern day New York. The Big Bad Wolf, otherwise known as Bigby Wolf, is the sheriff of their community. In 2021, we got the limited DC Black Label series Batman vs. Bigby, A Wolf in Gotham, which is a collaboration between these two comic worlds, with Bigby as a main suspect for murders in Gotham. If you like the Fables world and you like Batman, you'll love this little mashup. Number 9. JSA, The Liberty Files. The Justice Society of America, The Liberty Files, was a DC Elseworlds story from 2000 to 2003, which makes it non-canonical. Any story that lets writers go outside the rules of the DC canon always makes for stories that I personally love. Alright, so what's it about? The series took characters from the JSA, but turned them into covert government operatives in World War II. Specifically, the story centered on 3 heroes: Batman, called Bat, Hourman, called Clock, and Dr. Midnight, called Owl. I know, really creative names. The 3 were known as the Unholy 3, and their mission, at least in the Part 1 story, is to find Jack the Grin, who is the Joker, who has information about the German weapon Übermensch, or Superman. Are you sold yet? Number 8. Earth 15. Earth 15 first appeared in 2007 in Countdown number 30. This Earth was basically a perfected Earth with heroes who evolved to become nearly perfect beings, with most of the proteges like Jason Todd, Donna Troy, Zod, and Kyle Rayner taking over the original heroes' roles. That is, until the events of Flashpoint, when it was destroyed by the crazed Superboy Prime. That little rascal. The still existing dimension became a graveyard universe, eventually being modified by Hal Jordan into an Earth whose heroes had personalities opposite to the Prime Earth versions. It's an interesting place for sure, and some interesting things have happened in it. Check it out. Before we go on to number 7, I got something to tell you. You're great. You guys keep hitting that like and subscribe button, you're making me blush, my goodness. Keep up that support, it helps us bust out more and more of these videos for you lovely people. Alright, moving on. Number 7. Earth 20. Earth 20, which appeared in Final Crisis Superman Beyond #1 in 2008, is the home of Kent Nelson, otherwise known as Doc Fate. And he is so cool. Basically, he leads a society of superheroes on Earth 20, which is a group that includes Lady Blackhawk, Immortal Man, the Green Lantern, the Mighty Atom, and Batman from time to time. The history of this world isn't exactly very well known, but we do know it has just come out of a war that is somewhat like World War II. There are Zeppelins flying around in some cities, and the cars are all big and beautiful. It's got a very slick 20s style. The heroes of this world would do righteous battle against a society of supervillains from Earth 40 in a huge 5-year war. My goodness. Number 6. Batman White Knight. I cannot recommend this 2017 story enough to you guys. It is an insanely interesting and fantastic Joker story. It takes place in an alternate Gotham City, and the Joker regains his sanity after a brutal and violent forced ingestion of a medicine by Batman. The roles are practically reversed, as the seemingly reformed Joker, real name Jack Napier, becomes the White Knight, hoping to better Gotham City as a politician, while also condemning Batman as an unhinged violent vigilante. Which, I mean, it's kinda hard to argue against that point of view. He sued the GCPD for police brutality, and he worked against the 1%, who used Batman and Gotham's crime for their own financial benefit. Joker actually becomes a good guy. It's kind of insane. But there is more to this story, and I highly suggest you check it out. Number 5. Earth 14. Alright, this is gonna be a pretty quick one. There is not a whole heck of a lot of information out there about Earth 14, which first appeared in Superman Volume 4, number 15 in 2017. I want to talk about it because the Justice League of Assassins is just the coolest looking version of the Justice League I have ever seen, even if it was just for a short period of time. The Assassins are made up of alternate heavy weapon bearing versions of Wonder Woman, Batman, Harley Quinn, Flash, Aquaman, what looks like it could be Green Lantern, and Superman. They only last about 3 pages of the comic they are a part of, but I really hope we see them pop up in other stories because these guys are just so rad. All we saw them do was fight a bunch of gatherers in a post-apocalypse looking Earth. Number 4. Batman 89. Okay, you can fight me in the comments about this one. Batman 89 was published in 2021, but the stories take place in the Tim Burton Batman movies world. Seeing how we haven't actually seen a comic in this world, I'm gonna take this one, okay? Cool. So yes, this is that Batman and Bruce Wayne in this comic. He has the same suit from the movie, the same amazing Batmobile, and it takes place after the events of the movies, but it's more like comic heavy. It's really cool. We see Harvey Dent actually become Two-Face, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman is back, and we even get a Robin for this universe. It's so awesome. I don't want to spoil too much, so you can probably guess what I'm gonna say. Go give it a read. Number 3. DC vs. Vampires. The ongoing DC vs. Vampires limited series that started in 2021 is such an amazing story. It just makes sense. Pit the characters of the DC universe against a growing army of vampires? A mystery around who the superhero vampire leader is? It's great! The basic premise, without spoiling much, is that Mary, Queen of Blood, who upholds the peace between vampires and humans, is dead. Whoever killed her also killed the Legion of Doom, and has made a plan for vampires to take over the world. Andrew Bennett, a vampire, went to the Justice League to tell them about the army of vampire supervillains. There's a vampire Gorilla Grodd, like, come on. The story has a large Batman and Bat family presence, as a story about vampires should, and for a story so grim, it actually has some really funny moments. Especially from Damian Wayne, as I'm sure no one is surprised by. Number 2. DC Bombshells. DC Comics Bombshells is an awesome story from 2015 that focuses on a reality where a team of female superheroes fight on the side of the Allies during World War II. It actually first came to be because of a line of statuettes released by DC with superheroines wearing retro 40s inspired costumes. They were so popular that they moved to variant covers, and then they got their own series. Each hero has their own style and story, while still all being part of this bigger, wider alternate World War II story. It's truly awesome, and mainly follows Batwoman, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, Stargirl, Zatanna, and the Batgirls. Go give it a little gander, would you? Number 1. Dark Knights of Steel. And now for my favorite. Dark Knights of Steel.
swords, sorcery, superheroes. Dark Knights of Steel is a story that actually came out this year, that's 2022 if you're watching this from the future, but is set in an alternate medieval fantasy universe. Batman is an actual knight and half Kryptonian. Like, I'm just in love. Okay, so basically, Jor-El and Lara escape Krypton before it is destroyed and crash land on the medieval Earth, and eventually become the rulers of the land after giving birth to Kal-El. It's wild. There are alternate versions of Green Lantern, Supergirl, Harley Quinn, Robins, Alfred, Constantine, Green Arrow, Joker, Green Lantern, Black Lightning, and more. I love to see comic book publishers do these time-displaced stories, it's great.
Number 10, Speeding Bullets. Basically a multiversal DC Elseworld story that answers the question, what if Superman didn't just have powers but was also rich? That's basically what is going on here in Speeding Bullets. In this story, Superman wasn't raised by the Kents, but instead was taken in and adopted by the Waynes, and he becomes, you guessed it, Bruce Wayne. After the death of Thomas and Martha, Bruce becomes Batman, but the difference is this version of Batman has tech, money, smarts, and superpowers. Lex also becomes a mess of a villain in this world. While still being Superman's nemesis, he's also Batman's nemesis rolled into one, with an extra little dash of Penguin, just for good measure I guess. So here we get a villain who is Lex, Joker, and the Penguin all in one. Oh goody, just what none of us necessarily wanted or needed. And yet, we got it. This also doesn't do much to enhance his motivation for villainy, which, like his identity, is also kind of all over the place. Still, the premise behind this Elseworld story is pretty cool, but unfortunately it doesn't add enough when it comes to offering a twist or different perspective to either the Superman or Batman mantle. Number 9, Batman and Captain America. A gloriously weird and awesome comic. This DC Multiversal story also happens to be a DC Marvel crossover issue featuring Batman, his sidekick Robin, and Captain America and his sidekick Bucky. Both Cap and Batman end up joining together and then swapping sidekicks. Their villains also seem to have a team up as Red Skull and Joker come together, but this is also the famous issue that Joker insists that Red Skull is too evil even for him. He may be a criminal lunatic, but after all, he's an American criminal lunatic, and he can't stand by when it comes to abiding by Red Skull's history and motivations. So not only do we get to see some great team-ups, but we also get to see a full-out fight break out between these two iconic villains. Thanks, John Byrne. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you love Elseworld stories and all of the weird, wacky things that go on in the multiverse when it comes to just alternate worlds, let us know by giving this video a thumbs up, and hey, maybe we can do some more Elseworlds lists for you. Cause yeah, there's lots of kooky stories out there. Number 8, the Superman monster. Frankenstein, but make it Superman. There are lots of retellings of classic tales when we look into the realm of Elseworlds, and the story of Frankenstein is not one that is left untouched. Actually, I feel like this story gets interpreted a few times throughout the Elseworld stories. I feel like I've seen at least 3 different versions of Frankenstein retold in Elseworlds. I still have yet to see Dr. Seuss retellings though in the world of DC, which are some classic kids tales that do eke their way surprisingly into Marvel at times. In the Superman monster, Lex Luthor takes the role of creator and Superman ends up as his monster. You might think this sounds familiar considering it's also kind of the premise for the main continuity origin story of Bizarro, but this creation, while starting out similar to Bizarro, eventually goes full-on hero and full-on Superman by the end of it. That means in this story of Frankenstein, the creator ends up the monster, while the monster ends up the hero. What a twist. Number 7, Justice Riders. Because it's an inevitability that at some point, we have to turn to the Wild West for inspiration when it comes to an Elseworld story. We've gotta go there at some point. And so we have Justice Riders. Justice Riders reimagines the DC universe as existing during the time of the Wild West and adapts the characters to kind of fit their surroundings somewhat. As such, Wonder Woman becomes a Texan sounding sheriff, and Martian Manhunter gets to sport a poncho and a cowboy hat. Which honestly, this is one you might want to check out just for that, cause that's great. This is the Wild West, baby. There are also plenty of shootouts and bar brawls, some with cyborg enemies involved. As ridiculous as this premise is, I will say it's executed well and it also looks fantastic, so. Number 6. The Reaching Hand. Honestly, what a strange story this one is. It features Batman as an occult detective trying to solve the mystery of Elongated Man's death. Unfortunately, it seems as though Elongated Man wasn't alone in his body, and there was a force of darkness within him who continues to seek to spread gloom and doom wherever it can. This story features a lot of restless nights for Bruce as well, and unfortunately, he ends up too late to save Jimmy Olsen. Not Jimmy Olsen, who ends up brutally murdered by Swirly. At least that's what it looks like to me. He's just head down in the toilet and they're like, he's been murdered. Or he was just being mistreated by the other staff at his workplace, but no, he's dead. Death by Swirly. Bruce also is too late to save his friends or Gotham in the end. At least that's what's implied. This one ends pretty bleakly, so yeah. Also, this is back from when we had like Elseworlds, like giant sizes, so there would be like a bunch of short stories in there. Kinda like What If, and I like that style. More stories though than What If, because those are normally 2. Sometimes only 1. Number 5. Elseworld's finest, Supergirl/Batgirl. You can't go wrong with a jacked Joker when it comes to weird multiversal stories. Looking real jacked, baby! Elseworld's finest is weird but also kind of cool. It focuses on Barbara Gordon and Kara Zor-El, Batgirl and Supergirl respectively, who are guardians of Gotham and Metropolis, as in this world, there was never a Batman or a Superman. The two of them team up to take on the manipulative and traitorous Lex Luthor, and as I said, a really swole version of the Joker. It's a strange one, but it's also kind of a great one. Number 4. Batman/the Demon, a tragedy. In this Elseworld story, we get to explore a horrifying fantastical world where magic exists. Here, Bruce Wayne is not the Batman, instead suffering from an allergy to moonlight. He is a restless sleeper, and it turns out this is because he's actually bonded to the demon Etrigan. Oh my goodness. It takes Bruce a while to figure this out though, but in the end, he is too late to save his girlfriend Glenda. Poor Glenda. The best thing he can do according to Merlin is to wipe his memory, which will also mean he has no recollection of Glenda. Oh no. Merlin claims that this will save her. Unfortunately, it doesn't, as Etrigan taking over Bruce in the nighttime does end up still killing her. But hey, at least Bruce doesn't remember her, which actually seems to have been Merlin's plan all along. You see, in order to keep the demon trapped within Bruce, his forgetfulness is necessary. There is no way to save Glenda really in any case, most likely, and Merlin was just saying that to try to get Bruce to, do what he wanted him to do. But hey, at least Bruce doesn't remember her, so at least he won't be sad about it. Number 3. Brotherhood of the Bat. Have you ever wondered to yourself what the DC universe would be like if every member of the League of Assassins was dressed up and also weirdly happened to resemble Batman? No? Me neither. But too bad, because we get to know what that would be like in this Elseworld story. I mean, not even too bad, it's kind of really great in a weird way. Brotherhood of the Bat takes place in a post-apocalyptic future where Ra's al Ghul decides that the League of Assassins, they need some new costumes. New Bat-themed costumes that all very much resemble alternative takes on Batman's outfits. Also, check out some of the notes on Ra's al Ghul's design sketches here. That is honestly my favorite part of this story. Just seeing all these, like there's like little notes in red. It's like, is this cape too much? You can never have too much cape, just so you know. Just so you know, Raish, no such thing. Number 2. Batman Nosferatu. If you want something weird in a sort of horror-based and very artistic way, we've got you. Batman Nosferatu was actually part of an Elseworld story series that delve into the German Expressionist period. This story seems to take some inspiration from Nosferatu and the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Not only is the art style very different and unique, but the whole tone and the style of the dialogue is as well. The story has a lot going on, but mainly it follows the horrors of Dr. Arkham. To give you like the briefest summary ever, because as I said, there's a lot going on in this story, it's also quite long. The story mainly centers around Dr. Arkham and his experiments and creations, including one called the Laughing Man. Oh, I wonder who that's supposed to be. A reanimated creature made from various corpse parts. In the end, Bruce Wayne's son ends up dying and is resurrected as the Nosferatu, sort of cyborg monster creature who ends up taking on and defeating the Laughing Man. I wonder who Nosferatu is supposed to stand for here. Any guesses? Number 1. Batman/Lobo. Like all of the weirdest comic stories out there across the multiverse, this one also features Lobo. Here, Joker hires the mercenary to ruin Batman's reputation and then finally kill his nemesis. Lobo sets out dressed as Batman and begins to muck up the streets, killing Batman's villains in gruesome ways to make sure that people know that Batman is no hero. He's like, what, does Batman have a no-kill policy? Pfft, not anymore. Also, the deaths have to be gruesome because this is a Lobo comic after all, so yeah, they're all pretty... there's something. I don't even know if we can show them here. In the end, the Joker is forced to call off Lobo after it's revealed that Batman is actually his long-lost twin brother, Bruce Wayne. You see, Joey and Bruce were apparently separated at a young age. I mean, does it get any weirder than this?
Back in May, Marvel dropped the major news that Storm was going to be joining the Avengers. This is an incredibly exciting development that we thankfully won't have to wait long for, since the story will be coming out in August of this year. It's part of Marvel's From the Ashes era. In addition to joining the Avengers, Storm is also getting a brand new solo series. Storm will also be getting a new look, designed by Lucas Werneck. Marvel has posted what the costume will look like and a sneak peek of it in action with the cover of the first book of the new series. The team working on the comic are all known fans of Storm, so it's safe to say that our girl is in good hands, and fans are very excited to see what drama unfolds between her and T'Challa since their divorce. Melissa Gold's Songbird has been around for a while, going from Screaming Mimi, the wrestler, to Screaming Mimi of the Masters of Evil, but it wasn't until 2016 that she joined an Avengers team. It was Avengers Idea Mechanics, or AIM, and she was a double agent, also working with criminal John Garrett. Her cover was blown and she ended up fighting her teammates, but her morals were changing to wanting to be one of the good guys. So to make up for her double agentry, she became a triple agent with alliance to DaCosta. She was discovered again, but this time by the criminal Garrett, who then captured her and tried to get her to give him the location of the team's headquarters. She didn't, and Garrett was eventually neutralized. Songbird decided to take some much needed vacation time, deciding to go to New Jersey, where she was easily found by the new Thunderbolts and brought back into a fight. No rest for the wicked there. Her names are all sound related because her thing is she screams really loud due to her altered vocal cords. The screams have a variety of effects, like physically hitting someone, or manipulating them emotionally, or just hurting their ears. Robert Maverick joined the US Avengers in 2017 as Red Hulk. Maverick used Hulk plugins to become Red Hulk. A Hulk plugin is a device that allows its user to become a Hulk for 1 hour every 36 hours. It's like an artificial Hulk, and the short time period is there because any longer would result in the human's body experiencing health complications. While on the US Avengers, Maverick was targeted by a double agent, Kyle. Kyle infected him with nanites that would bypass the Hulk plugin and gave Hydra full control of Red Hulk. This was bad for many reasons, but it had a severe effect on Maverick's health. Hydra kept him in his Hulk form 800 times longer than they should have. So when he was finally turned back, his skin was permanently red and there was damage to his organs and body operations. Maverick was benched because of this, but he fought when it mattered, once donning the Iron Patriot armor to fight the OG Hulk. Tippy Toe is Squirrel Girl's sidekick. I know, I would not have expected that either. Squirrel Girl needed an army of squirrels for a battle, and Tippy Toe was the only survivor of all those squirrels, becoming then Squirrel Girl's permanent partner. The two have fought some truly incredible battles together. Tippy Toe has been where I'm guessing no squirrel has been before, like the moon to confront Galactus. Tippy Toe is not reliant on Squirrel Girl and will go on adventures all by herself, one time teaming up with Rocket Raccoon to stop Plant Man from destroying Central Park. The most shocking story in the biography of this squirrel's life has got to be that she once had some of the power cosmic in her. Tippy's choice of attire is typically a pink ribbon around her neck, so she is a fashion icon in addition to being a super squirrel. What can't she do? Another character from the 80s has joined the Avengers team. Gomi's backstory was that he was the younger cousin and lab assistant of this researcher that was obsessed with Marvel Girl. The researcher wanted to make his own Marvel Girl. First though, he created intelligent lobsters, the strength of a human, but we will get there in a minute. When the evil scientist couldn't create his own Marvel Girl, he decided to just experiment on his cousin instead, attempting to give him telekinetic abilities. It did and didn't work. He got telekinetic abilities, but they are super limited and uncontrollable. All Gomi can do is throw a blast of force in front of him. He can control the direction, but not much else about it. Gomi's sidekicks, pets, best friends, you pick, are the two lobsters mentioned before. They are named Bill and Don. Unfortunately, Don was stepped on by Devil Dinosaur, but Bill has lived long enough to see Gomi join the superhero initiative Avengers World. This went down in 2019. 2015 was a big year for Emily Guerrero. She made her debut into Comic Society and joined an Avengers team. What a season out on the town. Emily might have been better known to some by her hero name, Synapse. She thought she was just a girl, but turns out somewhere in her family history is some Inhuman. She discovered this part of herself when the Terrigen Cloud moved into their house like it paid rent and encased her family in cocoons. It was after she exited her cocoon that she gained her powers, which are telepathy, literally affecting people's brain chemistry by manipulating the electricity running through their head, boosting immune systems, and suppressing the powers of others. Captain America saw her potential and recruited her for the Avengers Unity Division representing Inhumans. Her first battle as an Avenger was iconic. It was against Super Adaptoid. She mind-controlled a flock of pigeons and got them to attack it, giving the rest of the Unity Division the chance to take out the villain. No one is doing it like her. One thing we can count on for Steve Rogers is he is going to start an Avengers team. In the new story, Avengers Twilight, Steve is pretty old and doing what he does best, starting an Avengers team to save the world. And just a warning, from this point on, there will be spoilers for the Avengers Twilight comics. The world that this happens in is not Earth 616, its temporary assignment is TRN 1096, but in this world, the Avengers went through everything that they did before, but then Ultron gains control of the Hulk, enhances a bunch of supervillains, and leaks the identity of many superhumans. Of course, the heroes are blamed for all this, and the Avengers are disbanded, leaving the world to get worse and worse until it is a completely controlled society under constant SHIELD surveillance. Steve Rogers has the super soldier serum removed from his body, meaning he retired and grew old. Thor went off-world, Iron Man lost his head literally, other heroes either disappeared, went underground, or were arrested. It wasn't until some weirdo decided to make a documentary that made Red Skull look good that Steve finally got up to fight again. Steve started working with the team Defenders. The team was able to replicate the super soldier serum, and Steve could Captain America once more, doing what he does best, leading the Avengers that I personally am calling this new team the Twilight Avengers. So I mentioned in that last point that Tony lost his head. However, Tony's son kept the genius billionaire playboy philanthropist Noggin in a containment unit so he could use his brain to puzzle out problems. Steve broke into the location where his head was being kept and stole Tony, and with the help of an electrical surge from Thor, was able to bring that head to life again, reviving Tony Stark. Now Tony is on the Twilight Avengers as Iron Man once again. He has an android body and his head floats around in his helmet, but he is still the Tony we know and love. It's like he never left. Tony fights wearing his red Iron Man armor. After the big battle with Ultron, people were turning on the heroes. Iron Man was attacked, and that's how he ended up just ahead. Tony has a personal stake in this futuristic game as his son is a major player on the opposing side, leading to some very interesting character exploration for Tony's character. The Twilight Avengers series has given us two exciting new character debuts. One is Tyler, the Twilight Avengers guy in the chair, essentially. Since there are only 6 issues of this story, we don't know a whole lot about Tyler, but we do know that he is really smart, a talented engineer and mechanic, and a very capable fighter. He is described as a technological genius. Tyler is fearless and has very strong morals. Though he might not be on the front lines of every battle, he is working wonders from his guy in the chair position, overriding security systems, creating new tech for the team, or keeping an ear on transmissions. Maybe he will make his main time lane debut soon. And finally, we have Ramona Jones's Hawkeye. She was originally part of this world's Thunderbolts as Bullseye, but her morals were too good for the team. Upon being asked to harm an unarmed target, Ramona realized that the Thunderbolts wasn't where she wanted to be anymore. When Steve showed up to retrieve Tony, Bullseye helped him escape, and in the process, landed a spot on the Twilight Avengers. Bullseye is the new Hawkeye for this Earth. She was trained by the military to be a high-precision shooter with a 100% success rate. Thor was actually the one to deem Ramona as the new Hawkeye. When they met, he remarked that she had a great warrior spirit in her, so she has the Thor stamp of approval. It's unclear if Ramona has any connection to Jessica Jones, but I like to think she does because that would be cool. The Avengers Twilight series is out in full now and only has 6 issues, so a really quick read that has my personal stamp of approval. I really liked it.
There are the Avengers we all know, and then there are those we don't. Some of them are well-known characters you wouldn't expect to see, and some are completely new to comics and the Avengers. While others on the team might have the greatest potential for power, Robbie Reyes is a bit more experienced when it comes to his powers. And even when he was less experienced, he accidentally killed one of the previous Star Brands, Kevin Connor, in Marvel Legacy, which is pretty crazy. For those reasons, I thought we should include him on this list. Robbie Reyes first appeared in 2014 in All New Ghost Rider issue number 1. While debuting in the comics during the All New initiative, like the title claims, he is also an all-new Ghost Rider. During a street race gone wrong, Robbie was killed and ended up possessed by the ghost who haunted the car he was driving, becoming the new Ghost Rider. He joined up with the Avengers around 2018, joining them in their battle against the Dark Celestials. Personally, Robbie is actually one of my favorite Ghost Riders, and I think Ghost Rider in general as a character makes a great addition to the Avengers team. Ghost Rider's just so powerful. Weapon America is one of the members of a multiversal team of Avengers that we saw appear in Avengers Assemble Omega. This was a big comic with a lot of new Avengers, both in terms of characters who are new and new recruits to the team in general. First introduced, Weapon America is a member of the Howling Commandos on his Earth 20504. He seems to be a combination of multiple characters in terms of his appearance, abilities, and likeness, appearing as a blend of Captain America, Wolverine, with some nuke mixed in as well. He's got the nuke tattoo and everything. And also, yes, if you were wondering, this is one of the Avengers that's also part of Avengers Prime team. Loki Avengers Prime, not 2013 Avengers Prime. Next up, Mr. Sweeney, aka the Bruiser? Now, while the Bruiser isn't really an Avengers member technically, he did recently join up with the group in a way as an ally. We recently learned in the comics that the true identity of Mr. Sweeney was that of, yeah, Bruiser. Initially, the Bruiser was a villain who made his first appearance in the 80s in the comics in Avengers issue 201. That's the direct issue after the tragically iconic issue 200. Yeah, that issue 200. In issue 201 though, Jarvis actually takes on the Bruiser on his own. He finds out that the Bruiser has been terrorizing the neighborhood of the Bronx, and specifically Jarvis's mom, who lives there. In retaliation, Edwin Jarvis takes on the Bruiser himself, refusing to call the Avengers for a matter that he feels can just be easily handled with some help from himself by the neighborhood. Jarvis boxes the Bruiser and inspires the people in the neighborhood to unite and rise up against the Bruiser, and in the end, the Bruiser is basically forced to admit defeat and he ends up retreating. Now it seems years later, appearing as Mr. Sweeney, that the Bruiser has turned over a new leaf and instead of fighting against Jarvis has actually found employment as his assistant. I kind of love it. More an Avengers ally here than a straight up Avenger, but this was such a cute little cameo and like callback to the 80s, I just had to mention it. It's so random and I kind of love it. Although weirdly, this version of Nighthawk was actually a Mephisto creation. Kyle Richmond, or this version of him anyways, normally of the Squadron Supreme, ended up being recruited by the Avengers to help them in their fight against Mephisto. Perhaps it was because of his desire to do good as he is a hero, or his personal agenda against Mephisto, but for a time Nighthawk did join the team. Nighthawk is not normally considered to be a new character and has joined up with Captain America's Secret Avengers in the past as well during Civil War I, at least he did for a very short time, but technically that was a different Nighthawk, as this one is the one that is believed to have come into existence in 2018 as a construct that Mephisto created to be a member of Agent Phil Coulson's Squadron Supreme of America. Yeah. Oh, comics. I'm not exactly sure when this next member of the Avengers joined up with the team fully, specifically anyways, but I think in regards to the comics it would be somewhere around early 2023, when the Multiversal Avengers were coming together as a team in the culmination of Jason Aaron's Avengers run. Yeah, Avengers Prime Multiversal Avengers, that Multiversal Avengers. Captain Carter was one of the heroes who appeared there. Now if you are an MCU Peggy Carter or Haley Atwell fan like me, then you know Captain Carter from Multiverse of Madness, Office and Marvel's What If animated series. But guess what? It also seems this character, or some other version of this character at least, also joined up with the Avengers in the comics as well. She appears throughout the major final story arc of Aaron's run, appearing in the main Avengers series, in Avengers Forever, and an Avengers Assemble Omega. This version of Carter came to be in the place of Steven Rogers. On her Earth, it was Peggy, not Steve, who became the super soldier between the two of them, and so she becomes Captain Carter instead of Captain America, for those that don't know. You know, we're in the future when you're recruiting a whole city to your cause. This is exactly what happened here with the Impossible City. The Impossible City was initially used as a base who was in the group of multiversal heroes. Initially in the comics, we aren't actually informed who were the ones that were behind that. What we do know though is after they left their base, their prisoners escaped. This villainous troop was known as the Ashen Combine. The Ashen Combine would then make the city their own base, and it would be the place they had their final stand against the Avengers. When the Ashen Combine was defeated, the Impossible City actually offered to join up with the Avengers team. Oh yeah, the Impossible City is also aptly named because it's sentient as well. Pretty impossible stuff. The Avengers accepted the offer, and as such, the Impossible City became an official member of the Avengers team. So yeah, now they have a whole city on their team. Nathan Summers ended up joining the Avengers team at a time when Captain America was seeking to present a show of unity. Hence, Cable ended up on the Avengers Unity division, which was meant to bring together the Avengers and X-Men after the events of Avengers vs. X-Men had created tension between the two superhero groups of Earth. Series-wise, the team was known as the Uncanny Avengers, with Cable joining up as early as issue 4. Technically, this is also volume 3 of Uncanny Avengers if you wanted to go find it yourself and give it a read. Cable is an extremely powerful telepath and telekinetic due to him being the offspring of X-Men member Cyclops and his wife, Mr. Sinister created clone of Jean Grey made from a spark of the Phoenix, Madeline Pryor. Despite Maddie being his birth mother, Jean has also kind of been like a mother to Nate after she was implanted with the memories of raising him, making him kind of like her retconned in a telepathic way son, with Maddie becoming more like kind of a surrogate in terms of her relationship with Nathan and just kind of how she's treated in the comics. I don't agree with it, but that's where it is. Formerly known to her as Baby Nathan, and back in the day as Baby Christopher. Constantly called Baby Christopher back in the day. And I feel like now when I call him Baby Christopher, people are like, do you know who we're talking about? It's Nathan Summers. And I'm like, yes, but remember when he was Baby Christopher? It's one of his names, so I guess it kind of makes sense. Joining up in the same issue as Nighthawk, who we talked about earlier, was Brandy Selby, aka the cosmic hero known as Starbrand. Starbrand was initially an infant whom the team adopted and raised together. She would rapidly grow up while in their care and would ultimately end up joining the team as one of their most powerful members. However, her time with the team was short-lived, and in the end she would sacrifice herself as a hero to protect the rest of the Avengers. Also, note to self, if I have a baby and I'm about to perish, maybe don't leave that baby in the care of the Avengers, because it might not work out. Avenger Prime was initially a name used by a character who was essentially all of the Avengers merged together. That version of the character made their first appearance in the 2013 Mighty Avengers series, but another character with that name also appeared much later on in the 2021 Free Comic Book Day Avengers and Hulk comic. There, Avengers Prime was shown to be the leader of the Deathlock Avengers forces who stand guard at the God Quarry, seeking to watch, protect, and warn against major multiversal threats and potential chronal collapses. We'd also come to learn that this Avenger Prime was actually an alternate reality version of Loki, who leads his own massive multiversal Avengers team. Yes, the one that characters like Weapon America appear on, and the Deathlock Avengers. Loki was forced to do this after coming to accept his very important role in the formation of the Avengers across the multiverse and across time. After attempting to dodge their assembling in his own timeline and acting as his Earth's sole protector, he accidentally caused the extermination of all life in his universe. Whoops. After attempting to end it all, Loki woke up in the God Quarry and found himself tasked with protecting all of time, assembling his own extensive team of Avengers to do so. But he was pretty embarrassed, so he mostly just kept to himself and stayed in the shadows. The Phoenix made her first appearance as a member of the Avengers a long time ago, way back in the past in 1 million BC, joining up with the prehistoric or Stone Age Avengers. How does this make her a new member? Well, while in canon this happened a long time ago, it wouldn't be revealed to us readers to have happened until the modern day, as the Avengers of 1 million BC first appeared in 2017 in Marvel Legacy issue number 1. So it's a super old character, but appeared pretty recently.
To be an Avenger is an honor that many Marvel heroes strive for, and every year more and more make the cut. Heroes like Eric Brooks, or as most of us know him, Blade. Blade has been around since 1973, so it actually took me by surprise when I learned that he didn't become an actual mainline Avenger until Avengers Volume 8, number 12. Born with an extremely unique vampire physiology, Eric used his powers to wipe out evil vampires, taking on the title of Daywalker. Now, to be fair, he was once part of the Mighty Avengers before being invited to join the main Avengers team by Black Panther. But while on the Avengers, he did a lot. Like, I mean a lot. He ended a vampire civil war, saved Ghost Rider in hell, battled the Dark Elf Malekith in the War of the Realms, helped stop the Egyptian god Khonshu from taking over the entire Earth, and he recruited Dracula and his vampire nation to help fight Null, the symbiote god, and King in Black. Blade came to the Avengers with a heck of a lot of supernatural expertise, and he was amazing on the team until he left to be Dracula's own sheriff, which... what? Roberto da Costa, the mutant who also goes by the name Sunspot, first ever joined the Avengers, accepting Captain America's offer alongside the mutant Cannonball. Sunspot came across as a bit of a comedic member of the team, and he didn't really seem to take his Avenger status as seriously as others did, but that pretty quickly turned around. Where Iron Man used to fill in the laid-back billionaire role on the team, Roberto stepped into that role pretty smoothly and got the team out of quite a few problematic moments. It's arguable to say that he really stepped into his own as an Avenger when he bought the whole of AIM and used the organization to create his own Avengers team in New Avengers Volume 4 and then again in US Avengers. His time as an Avenger not only boosted up his status from a C-list hero to one in the spotlight, but it also brought multiple creative Avengers series, which as comic book fans is something that we will not be upset about ever. Maya Lopez, also known as Echo, is honestly really cool. She has really cool photographic reflexes just like Taskmaster. She's been Ronin for a time and even been a host for the Phoenix Force, and she also became an Avenger. Now, initially Maya was actually a bit of a villain, being manipulated by the Kingpin in order to try and take down Daredevil. Luckily though, Maya was able to discover the truth about Kingpin and the lies he fed her, and that pushed her into reshifting her focus to become a hero. It was from there that she became Ronin, and thanks to a good old recommendation from Daredevil himself, she met up with Captain America and started working with the New Avengers in 2005. She would eventually be brought down by Elektra, and she would eventually be saved and revived, helped out during World War Hulk, Secret Invasion, and she even worked very closely with Moon Knight for a while before being revived yet again, and was eventually granted the Phoenix Force. She would eventually join the actual true Avengers in Avengers Volume 8, number 54 from 2022, facing the multiversal Masters of Evil. Next up, a former Marine and scientist turned superhero, Adam Brashear is not only one of the strongest heavy hitters in Marvel Comics, but he is also one of the smartest characters around. Blue Marvel didn't actually make his debut in Marvel Comics until 2008, but when he showed up, his origin story retroactively placed him in the Marvel Universe way back in the day. His origins take place in the 1960s during a project to use antimatter as an energy source. Adam and his best friend Connor were caught in an explosion that turned Adam into a living, stable antimatter reactor, which should in theory pretty much impossible, and it gave him an insane amount of power. Brashear would rejoin the superhero community alongside Luke Cage's 1970s Mighty Avengers, which in the real world happened in 2014, before he went on to join with Captain Marvel and Black Panther on the Avengers adjacent team known as the Ultimates in 2016, and most recently, he joined the Defenders and went rather, beyond. Next up, Eden Fessy, aka Manifold, first appeared as an incredibly underrated hero in Jonathan Hickman and Brian Michael Bendis' Secret Warriors series, alongside a group of other legacy heroes recruited by Nick Fury in 2009. Now, Manifold is a mutant with the insanely godlike ability to manipulate space, which he most often uses as a teleporter. He was actually the student to another mutant teleporter known as Gateway, but following with writer Jonathan Hickman, Manifold joined the Avengers in Avengers Volume 5 in 2014/2015 for one of the greatest Avengers runs we have had in a long time. As the Avengers expanded to a bigger scope than they have ever done before, Manifold was pretty instrumental in some of their galaxy-wide conflicts, and he even sacrificed himself during Secret Wars. Thankfully though, he was brought back and has become one of the most powerful and versatile mutants and Avengers. Now, there have been multiple Nova Primes throughout the history of the universe. Richard Rider is absolutely the main one, and he is fantastic, but When we first got Samuel Alexander in Point One Number 1 in 2011, he brought just a whole different vibe. Granted, being a younger guy with some huge shoes to fill, he doesn't exude the same kind of power that Richard Rider does, but that doesn't make him any less powerful. Sam has grown into a hero all of his own. He's fought alien warlords, evil Avengers doppelgangers, and interdimensional monsters, and he absolutely deserves the Nova mantle. While he can be reckless from time to time, thanks to his youth, independence, and loyalty, he still got offered a spot on 2016's all-new, all-different Avengers #1 by none other than the God of Thunder, Thor himself. Unfortunately for the Avengers though, Nova left the team pretty soon after with a few other younger heroes to form the Champions. And one of those young heroes was none other than Miles Morales. In the aftermath of the multiversal event Secret Wars, the second Spider-Man of the Ultimate Universe, aka Earth 1610, joined Marvel's main Earth 616 reality, and not too long after that, he also joined the Avengers in 2016 alongside Nova and Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. Now Miles has essentially all the same abilities as Spider-Man himself, but then he has some that are wholly his own, and they're actually pretty cool. His signature difference in my eyes is his venom. It's like a form of bioelectricity that he can emit from his body and use in some really cool ways, like in punches, beams, and blasts, and he can even infuse it into his own webbing. Miles is also able to use a spider camouflage to make his whole body and even his clothes and costume go invisible, but as I already said with Nova, these younglings weren't on the Avengers team for very long, leaving to form the Champions. But for Miles, his powers and his awesome mind actually lent a lot to the Avengers while he was there, and in return, he learned a heck of a lot from the older heroes while he was on that team. The Smashers of the Shiar Imperial Guard are human-like aliens using exospecs to grant themselves powers. Now for a long time, Vril Rock was the Soul Smasher, but he unfortunately met his end at the hands of the incredibly powerful mutant Vulcan. Isabel Izzy Kane is the granddaughter of World War II hero and Captain America buddy, Captain Terror. She was first ever introduced in Avengers Volume 5 #1, and Izzy found the exospecs of a Smasher on the farm that she was raised on. These exospecs spoke to her and beckoned her to put them on, giving her access to the Smasher's powers. Izzy then traveled to the Shiar world of Chandalar, where she became a sub-guardian of the Imperial Guard. Now after returning back home to Earth, Izzy's grandfather with his last words told her to become a hero, and he gave her Captain America's business card, which, I'm sorry, that's kind of hilarious. Now being the first and only human recruit of the Shiar Imperial Guard, gaining super strength, speed, energy blasts, and flight, plus her adventurous spirit and her grandfather's legacy, Captain America brought her onto the Avengers pretty quickly and with no contest, making her a big part of the team's spacefaring adventures. Vani Gast was the daughter of the Grand Master, one of the Elders of the Universe. She grew up exploring the cosmos by her father's side. Now when her father's title was threatened, she was granted teleportation powers that also had the added benefit of being able to alter people's memories. Vani took up the hero name Voyager and headed to Earth. Now Voyager met up with the Avengers and used her powers to insert herself into their memories as Valerie Vector, a founding member of the team who had bit the dust in the battle against the Squadron Sinister, which had removed her from existence and from everyone's memory. The Avengers' longtime butler, Edwin Jarvis, had collapsed due to an illness shortly before Voyager's arrival, so naturally, when Voyager arrived to the hospital Jarvis had just woken up in, he exposed the truth that Voyager had never actually been an Avenger. While this obviously didn't do her any favors, and she was pretty much booted from the team, she did admit that this was all the plan of her father, while she was actually inspired by the heroes and helped the Avengers to save the day a few times. And last up, the Avengers Unity Squad, first appearing in Uncanny Avengers, was an attempt to try and mend the human-mutant conflict after the events of Avengers vs. X-Men. The idea? To take some X-Men, to take some Avengers, and just put them together. It's kind of surprising that it really hasn't been done before. Now one of the first main recruits, handpicked by Captain America himself in Uncanny Avengers Volume 1 #1 from 2012, was none other than Anna Marie, aka Rogue. Being a former villain and still mourning the loss of Charles Xavier, Rogue caused quite a bit of friction on this new team. She originally joined in order to keep an eye on the Scarlet Witch, who was also in the team of heroes, and as most of you know, caused quite a devastating blow to the mutant community with M-Day. But as time passed, Rogue became one of the most valuable members of the team, even growing to become its leader. But If we are talking about most powerful, while Rogue was on this team, she managed to absorb all the major Marvel heroes' powers and fought off a Celestial, so I'd say that's pretty darn powerful.
Number 10, Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Batman Hush. I actually really love this story, but it's also kinda out there, especially when you consider it has its own sort of theme song and a very creepy tone. In Tales from the Dark Multiverse Hush, Bruce Wayne is the one who becomes a version of the Hush character. It would be more accurate though to say that he becomes a version of Hush and Batman if they were kinda like combined together. Here, Thomas Elliot instead becomes the rich billionaire playboy and also corrupt senator, allying himself with Talia al Ghul. He manages to make it so that Bruce was locked away in Arkham Asylum. Despite feeling slightly guilty about doing this to his childhood friend, overall Elliot is pretty okay with the way Bruce is imprisoned and treated there. However, after faking his death, Bruce Wayne manages to escape Arkham and becomes Elliot's worst nightmare. And just for a fun fact, he doesn't go by Hush in this one though, he's the Silenced. Shh. Get it? Still like Hush. Number 9, JLA the Nail. This is an Elseworld story that centers around a literal nail. The nail in question is one that punches Martha and Jonathan Kent's tire, thereby preventing them from intercepting and adopting little baby Kal-El, who would grow up to become Superman. Or at least he would have grown up to become Superman if that's what happened. In this world, instead, there is seemingly no Superman. As such, Lex Luthor is successful in making the JLA a band of outlaws. Instead of them being celebrated heroes, they're kind of considered to be somewhat criminal, despite of course their noble intentions. What I will say is at least a lot of this artwork is pretty good. Most of the limited series ends up being kinda dull, save for a few scenes and plot points. The parts that I found the most interesting were one where Selina gets therapy while sexy posing on a desk, another being a fight involving Joker with anti-grav mitts versus Batman, which takes place after Joker has successfully killed Batgirl and Robin. Batman ends up broken as a result of the Joker's actions here. We later learn that the Superman of this universe is basically a very sensitive Jimmy Olsen who is bonded with the remaining traces of Kal-El's DNA found in this crash-landed spaceship. Jimmy doesn't like it when people laugh at him. He ends up in a fight with the real Kal-El, another interesting part of the 3-issue series, who it turns out was adopted by the Amish, hence why he never became a hero, as he preferred to stay within his community. So we get an Amish Superman, and then we also get Jimmy Olsen Superman, but he's pretty much evil. Also, what is that costume he's wearing? Sorry Jimmy, I didn't mean to laugh at you. Sorry. Alright friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want even more multiversal tales, let us know that you love it by giving this video a thumbs up. And also let us know in the comments what other multiversal tales you have loved or you have thought are super weird, or that you loved and thought were weird. I mean, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. Number 8, Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Wonder Woman, War of the Gods. I don't even know what to really make of this multiversal story. All I can tell you is buckle in because this dark multiverse story is, yeah, dark. To be fair to this one shot though, I don't really even know what to make of the War of the Gods story in the main continuity, which I also found a little confusing, so it makes sense that this is where I would be as well with the dark multiverse version. A little confused. In this story, the Amazons of Themyscira end up in a war with the United States. When Diana is pulled into a battle with Hecate as a result of these events, where in the main continuity Hecate was defeated by Wonder Woman's lasso of truth, here she just ends up planting a seed within Diana's mind. Diana defeats her, but only temporarily. Following the death of Hippolyta, her mother, Diana is left weak, fearful, alone, and resentful, and this is when Hecate is able to take over. Unable to free her, all of Wonder Woman's friends die trying to. The only way to contain Hecate Wonder Woman is with magic, and many of her magical colleagues actually die in the attempt to do so. Hecate as such ends up chained, but of course so is Diana, unable to find the hope to escape her own internal prison. Of course, like most dark multiversal tales, we end on a pretty dark and tragic note. But that's okay, Zatanna's never gonna give up. Number 7, JLA Act of God. Admittedly, this is a cool premise, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense, which is what's weird about it. In JLA Act of God, an Elseworlds 3-issue miniseries, we get to explore a world where all the heroes of Earth have simultaneously lost their powers. Well, at least almost all of them anyways. How did this happen? black light? Somehow the world being hit with a flash of black light results in almost everyone losing their powers. I guess normally superheroes like don't go to raves or anything, where black light is, I feel like, very common. Although this is attributed to the black light, some might call it an act of God. A later on, very suddenly, devoutly Christian Diana Prince at least would probably claim that. Diana, haven't you met gods? How does that make sense? What's really ridiculous is in the first issue, as we go through the moment this happened, the world over, we get to see just how diverse not only everyone's powers are, but also when it comes to the source of their powers, just how diverse it is. In one page we go from Steel losing complete control of his systems and suit as he plummets to his doom, to Aquaman losing his ability to connect with the creatures of the sea telepathically and his ability to breathe underwater. At the same time, Kyle Rayner also has lost control of his Green Lantern ring, which seems to now just be, I guess, a really unique and trendy looking accessory. How could a flash of black light affect almost everyone in this same way? Like I said, it's a cool premise, kinda wonky execution though. Like, how is Steel affected by this? Didn't Steel make his suit? I'm confused. Number 6. Facets. What happens when we get to see the Teen Titans as they'd be in a fantasy setting? Well, a whole lot of weirdness. Raven of course ends up evil, known as a deadly and beautiful sorceress, Queen Raven. She creates her own loyal servant and accomplice with Victor Stone, or at least she tries to, transforming him permanently into a cyborg. It turns out this isn't all that Raven's been up to though. She has a whole collection of prisoners whom she has transformed in some way, and when Cyborg refuses to join her, she also contemplates holding him there with the rest of them. So apparently she does this a lot. Seems like her deals with people don't usually work out. I guess she's just hoping that one day that'll change. She's like, I'll just keep doing it. Eventually someone will be loyal to me. If I try it enough times, it's gotta work. In this story, Coriander is a prisoner of some goblin mages who use cosmic energy to transform her into Starfire. The comic features an all-out battle between Raven and Starfire, joined of course by the rest of the Titans. Nightwing goes on a trip inside Phantasm's cloak, literally looks like he's tripping out, and eventually Trigon joins the party when he is summoned by his daughter Raven. You can check it all out in the 1994 New Titans Annual. It's weird. It's definitely weird. Also, some of these outfits are interesting. Number 5. Superman at Earth's End. I don't even know where to begin with this comic. Oh boy. Okay, so Superman here is one of the first iterations of course, the old man heroes to come that we've come to love so much. See, before there was Old Man Logan, there was Old Man Supes. In this Elseworld story, we are in a post-apocalyptic future where machines rule supreme and mutants basically run amok. Also, there is an army of Batmen and vicious biker gangs because, I mean, why not? The year I believe is 2102, so possibly this is what we'll be dealing with in just over 80 years time. Honestly, the way things are going, I could maybe see that being our future. Superman is recharging and recuperating his strength when he hears about the plan to nuke Gotham City. He aims to save the city, but of course without doing any killing, because you know, he's Superman. And of course, no guns, because he's Superman. Except for the part where he uses guns to kill people. Except for that part. Mostly robo and really bad people though, so I guess for Supes it doesn't count. It features the famous "I am a man" memeable moment, which actually was shouted in response to an android by the way, so out of context it's really weird, but within context it actually like kinda makes some sense. It's still pretty weird, but it's not as weird. Also, shortly after claiming that he doesn't need weapons, Superman chooses to wield a ridiculous megagun known as the Expunger. It's crazy. I just love that he's like, I don't need weapons because I have powers. I would never do that. And then like flip to like 2 pages later and he's like, look at this giant expunger. I'm gonna use this mega gun. Number 4. All-Star Batman and Robin. Not so much a story as a full series, but I have other full series on this list, so it's fine. All-Star Batman and Robin consists of 10 issues, all of which are pretty weird when it comes to the depiction and characterization of a lot of our favorite superheroes, villains, and their allies even. Once again, we get a super jacked version of Joker in this comic. We also get a version of Vicky Vale who seems far more obsessed with Superman's manhood and dates with Bruce Wayne than any kind of serious reporting. And of course, then there are Batman and Robin. What a dynamic. Batman in this comic is the worst kind of hero, an entitled one. This is the version who refers to himself as the goddamn Batman and makes Dick eat rats and sleep in the Batcave initially. Because he's Batman, and he can do that. He also torments Hal Jordan Green Lantern by painting himself, Robin, and the entire room and corridor yellow, and also serves and consumes yellow food and drink around him, with Batman enjoying some lemonade and Robin devouring what appears to be an all-yellow ice cream cone. All-Star Batman and Robin has to be one of the weirdest multiverses out there. And every time I go back to it, I'm like, what is happening? What is this characterization? Number 3, JLA created equal. Okay, so All-Star Batman and Robin is the not so great kind of weird, but JLA created equal is just the weird kind of weird. In this 2-part Elseworld story, we get a glimpse into a world where all the men, or almost all the men, were killed off by an unexpected and sudden plague. The only 2 left alive are Superman and Lex Luthor in this reality, and yet for all the powerful women who remain, this book sure manages to still be about the male characters within it. In Created Equal, Superman attempts to help the rest of the new, almost all-female JLA figure out a way to repopulate the Earth. I say almost because Superman's still there, so yeah. The main concern is how to ensure the survival of the human male gender, as if they made clones with their technology and resources, they'd actually only be able to produce female ones. I guess they can't like tamper with the genes, they can't like tamper with the DNA, or I don't know how you make clones anyway, so I probably shouldn't tell other people how to do it. Eventually, Lois Lane and Clark Kent end up conceiving a son who is born and named Adam. He accidentally hugs his mother to death, and then Lex, being Lex, unleashes a plan to take control of all the young men who were created and raised on Themyscira, thanks to Adam's existence and his resilience. Also, he makes them all bald, because this is Lex Luthor. So, yeah. Oh, what a weird story. Come and join me, and also I'll be bald, because you all have lovely hair and it offends me. Number 2, a Batman Reptilian. Ah yes, the story of an alien baby that belongs to Killer Croc because he was influenced by aliens while inside his mother's womb, which is how he's even mutated and also makes him, like, I guess, a hybrid alien-human creation technically. In this beautiful yet bizarre story, Batman is attempting to track down whoever is killing all of his rogues. What he finds out though is that it isn't any one of the other villains, but Croc's baby that he just gave birth to. Killer Croc, of course, didn't know that he could do that. I mean, neither did we. It turns out that this is a result of him being part alien in origin, or being tampered with by aliens when he was like a fetus. The newborn babe, it turns out, just wants its mama, but for what purpose remains to be seen. Killer Croc can't nurture it, as you know, he doesn't have like the biological equipment for that. After we get through that whole slog of that's not gonna work, it's also implied that the giant alien monster baby wants Croc to mate with it, which is also thankfully out of the question when it comes to Croc's willingness, so thank goodness, because I thought this better not be where this is going, oh my goodness. Did I mention that Batman is also a huge jerk throughout this entire series? Cause yeah, this is Garth Ennis behind the writing wheel, and that is very much a thing. Which I'm not surprised by, that's kind of Ennis' whole thing, so yeah. I actually like Batman being a butt in that story more than I like him being a butt in Frank Miller's All-Star, so yeah. Number 1, Batman Last Night on Earth. This one was where the thumb came from in part 1 of this list. I had intended to actually include this story there, but then I got distracted by the Batman and Lobo crossover. Understandably so, I think, because that's also super weird. But that's fine, because it just means that Last Night on Earth gets a higher spot on this list of bizarre multiversal DC stories. Batman Last Night on Earth is a book that exists outside of the continuity and belongs to the DC Black Label line. Also, Reptilian is part of that same line, just so you know. Black Label primarily is made up of titles that are more adult in terms of their content and their themes. Here, that translates to Batman wearing a straitjacket version of his suit in a post-apocalyptic future, where Joker is just a head in a jar. They also end up fighting giant monster baby Green Lantern constructs in issue number 1, just to give you a sense of the level of weird that we're dealing with here. But it's like a fun weird. It's like a, I'd recommend this weird. I give it 2 weird thumbs up.